Okay, welcome to the stream. I am Reroll Zero, your host, and I wanted to start something off today that I feel like is is important to me, but I wrote a little bit I wrote a little bit of a story beforehand, and before everyone gets settled, everyone gets in here. Uh, I'm just still setting everything up, so sorry. Gosh, what was I going to say? So before we talk about the main subject of today's podcast, um, I gotta wait for a little bit more people to pour in and all that. Okay, alrighty. What did I want to say? Oh, right. Sorry. Before we get to the main subject at hand, I will want to go, or I want to, at the very least, show the uh, main formalities of the way. Um, I like to put Twitch shout out for Shin the Legend again. Shin is one of my moderators, and he's a pretty good friend. He helps me talk about mental health a lot, and he is a valuable friend and a person to talk to about mental health issues as well. Um, Other than that, so I'm glad that he helps me out. I'm glad he's my moderator. So another person that I would like to shout out again is Shrimpy RF. Shrimpy is another friend of mine that I know in real life, and he's another moderator, and he's a good guy, and I like for him to get recognition as well. Other than that, the last one again is the usual. I like to promote the Overwatch petition on change.org for X-Men related costumes for Overwatch. Again, I don't like what's it called? I don't like Overwatch too much, but if if this helps out that person, have their dream realized, then that would mean a lot to me. So again, uh, you know, it's free. You just need a signature. Other than that, if you don't have to donate or anything, and if you wanted to as well share, that'd be great as well. Other than that, I think we have enough time to start the main subject at hand, and I wanted to talk about sumo wrestling. But first, I wanted to say the first thing I wanted to say is something that kind of got me to talk about sumo wrestling for a while, and that is this image right here, and it's of a Japanese soda called Ramune. I started we um I may sound like a country hick, but like I only knew about these when they popped up at a Japanese restaurant in like almost like 2009 2010, and it's still, the restaurant still exists, but we don't have too much of a luxury to go there because again Japanese food is expensive. But thank you very much, Shin, for hosting me. Um what I was going to say is, so yeah, Ramune are Japanese sodas, and why I bring this up is because when I was streaming on Mixer once and I put Ramune in the title, some person didn't know about it, and I was kind of like almost taken aback, but at the same time I was kind of going like, okay, well, something some odd Japanese thing is not not everybody's not gonna or learn or know about it, and I understand that. What I was getting at is that uh ramenes are interesting because they have a marble, and it's a glass soda as well. They have a marble in like the top part of the soda, so that I don't remember how they work so much because I haven't seen one in a while. So yeah, it's been I mean I've seen one probably maybe like 2-3 months ago, but what I was getting at is there's a marble on the top. There's like two holders on the side, which is supposed to stop the marble, and again, it's supposed to stop the marble, so I think you can drink it. But at the same time, I'm still mesmerized. I don't think I've ever looked up how they actually work, and I think I've um drank the soda wrong the whole time because like I don't know how they work beyond the soda or the sides holding uh the marble is supposed to, but it's an interesting soda. It's kind of interactive in a sense because oh right, yeah, yeah, thank you for dropping by, Scoot. Yeah, in some novelty Japanese shops, you're right, there is a Daiso shop, and this is most embarrassing. This is the farthest I've ever gone to California for is in San Francisco. I know there's a shop called Daiso, and it's like a novelty slash like clothing shop for Japanese like goods and novelty stuff. Um and I didn't see the ramenes there, but I saw like pompadour wigs and like other goofy stuff. But no, but Scoot's right. They would be at like Japanese shops, and probably in your local J Town or something like that. I know there were probably ones, but I didn't see at the J Town in San Francisco. And there is a J Town in Los Angeles as well, but I don't remember seeing them there. They probably are, but I just, we didn't do too much the last time I went to Los Angeles. I remember specifically, and if if CSN is hear this as well, I remember specifically I was shanghaied to Los Angeles, and I was so really miffed about it. CSN or Snapdude is there. I was shanghaied to Los Angeles, and I didn't want to go because I thought we were just going to Santa Barbara to hang out for the day, and I gotta forget that Santa Barbara part, but just but yeah, we were going for that for the day, and hang on, I'm just gonna go to the main page for a second there, and Shanghai, Los Angeles, and I was going like, well, I don't know why we're here, but well, we hung out in like J Town, and we hung out at like a couple other spots, so it was a pretty nice place. It was dark when we got there too, or we got there like at probably like 5 or 6, so it was a lot of it was a bit cold out, so I didn't have, I think, the best clothing. So anyway, why I bring up the Ramune as well, I mean, besides the other thing about Mixer, and CSM will attest to it if he is in here. Thank you for dropping by, Shrimpy. CSM will attest to it if you're here to me, and that I know about it well. Try as much as possible to find the real sugar ones, because the ones I remember in the Japanese restaurant is those are like the and I don't know how to really categorize it after the fact, but it's called a, but it's like I think we dubbed them like real sugar versus fake sugar. So like the fake sugar ones are like Sensa or whatever, and then they taste off, but the real sugar ones taste much better. Same thing where it's like Coca-Cola is better in a glass versus a can. So she was trying to find the real sugar ones, and I know about them in a like another Japanese novelty shop that's close to us. Or not novelty shop, but like a Japanese grocery store that we'd like to go to every now and then. And it has the ramen, it has mochi, and the mochis are all right. I don't like to eat them too much because they're like the simple Japanese idea where it's like things need to be presented simply, except maybe not in the case of anime where everything is just off the rails. No, no, you're right about that, Shrimpy. Yeah, I specifically in another town over, I love to get a at a yogurt shop. I love to get a glass bottle and I mean a glass bottle of Coke and then we get a couple or some things for my brother. I bring up the restaurant as well because my brother used to work there, so that's why. Um, oh, I gotcha. So yeah, Shrimpy as well as Spaz friend is somebody you know as well. So, but no, I thank you for dropping by Spaz friend as well. Um, but yeah. So yeah, love to get a glass Coke and love to get a some yogurt from that shop and then go home for the day. But what I was getting at is that I love to bring up the ramen thing because it's a weird Japanese thing, and it kind of is a preface to where I wanted to talk about originally. It's about NHK, which I started watching that maybe 4 or 3 years ago when I started going back to college. I wanted to get a um, associate's degree I want to get an associate's degree originally in English, majoring in English, and then I switched to computer science because I my best one of my best friends CSN I had what he was working on or uh he was he was really instrumental in wanting me to go back to college. So I was I went back to college. I took a course in uh first algebra 1 because I needed to go back and redo uh take those courses and get the credits for them. Um and algebra 1, and then next semester I took algebra 2 and the intro to HTML and programming a web page is fantastic if you're interested at all for computer science, and that's where I started, and that's where I got a very big appreciation for um a very big appreciation for what's it called, for computer science and programming in general. So if you see right here, that's where my that was my final paper in using Notepad++, which is the programming compiler and like basic thing where you do slash or parentheses or whatever, and then you start making your web page. And I can't say anything to programming right now. And I got just best friend for as in trivia as well. So yeah, you guys can talk amongst yourselves or chat or whatever. Just have fun. And anyway, so yeah, I had a greater appreciation for computer science. And then all the math courses taken up were next time were like I wanted to roll in geometry next didn't happen. And I started enrolling in English and psychology because I failed psychology before, and that that was the final thing for before I had my breakdown. But I'm sorry, I went on a whole tangent about school, and my final word on college is that college is awful. But if you have nothing else planned in your life, just go get the credits. And if you have money and time, just go and get the credits and get your degree, and just at the very least get a degree or get your associate's degree, and then you'll have an extra layer of armor for when you go to jobs and um, other employment areas, because again that gives you the extra, like, not just the layer of armor, but also helps you get other candidates for the job as well. So like it says like, oh, you got an associate's degree in like engineering or something like that, and that shows the employer that, like, oh, you spent 2 years of your life, or 2 to 4 years of your life learning a new discipline or something like that. So that gives you more credence to your character. Sorry, again, long tangent about school. Need to go to the NHK. NHK had some fantastic programs, and one was the professionals, which could have was like a look at the day in the life of a um like a higher up, or just a normal job. The first one I remember watching was it was an older gentleman who was a steel welder that worked glue or welding steel plates to ships, and that was really fascinating. The next one I remember earnestly is well, not too well, but was fascinating all the same. Was a hang on, I'm gonna take a drink of water for a second. I realize I'm kind of dry for right now. Okay, I'm back. But it was they were taking like a traditional samurai castle around, or they kind of sawed off the bottom of and mounted it on like a house mover, and they moved the castle to another place because originally there was a lot of earthquake trouble, and so the castle's foundation was had some problems, and so they had to move it to another place that wasn't as prone as earthquakes as the other state or prefecture was, or just move it to another place that was not as damaged as before. Um, so that was pretty fascinating. The last one I recently watched was and I think maybe this is like 2 or 3 months ago. It was a guy who was a hairstylist, and I didn't think about the world of hairstyling too much, but it's a very cutthroat world, and he was a star in his own right in Japan, but when he went to Singapore, which is Singapore, I think it was Singapore, I could be wrong. Singapore is like one of the fastest rising Asian nations, um, in like recent history, about like how it's got a great like economy and all that, or it's got an economy which is competitive with other surrounding nations to um, to be relevant in the world. But he found it much harder to be a hairstylist in Singapore because the humidity there is much more high versus Japan. So that's a really fascinating show for the professionals. One of the other ones that I really was it was joyful to watch was a show and I can't remember the title about it, but it was called a show called Kyoto, or it was I can't think of it. So there's the city Kyoto, and there's an English lady living there. She's named Venetia, and she's an older English lady, and she lives in the Kyoto countryside. And you just listen to her talk about how her daily's goings on, her grandchildren, and her and about the joy of changing seasons. A lot of the shows focus on uh, some of her herbal remedies, which she has like bushes of like aloe vera, and like or the plant that makes aloe vera, and other stuff like that. And it was absolutely fascinating to watch. I know they don't broadcast that much of it anymore. I haven't seen it in a while, unfortunately. I think because not just she was getting older, but also I think they were saying her eyesight was failing. So that was the last I remember seeing about that. So I know it's like they don't put too many episodes of Venetia or The Professionals on the NHK website, which you can watch the NHK programs. What's it called? On their website on demand. So it doesn't work for some reason now on Xbox Live Internet Explorer, which is a weird thing to say, but I always watch sumo matches on that, and that's what I was gonna get to. Sumo matches. Sumo matches are absolutely fantastic, and that's our theme today about talking about NHK is sumo matches. So sumo matches are before we get to sumo matches, I wanted to bring up a lot of other skill thing as well. Supreme Skills is another fantastic show. It's just a normal like competitive reality show, but there is a ridiculous the English translation narrator. He's really funny because he over exaggerates a lot of stuff he's talking about. So that's one of the funniest things I've always watched. There's too many shows to talk about, obviously. There's something called Somewhere Street where they have they're like a camera crew go to like a foreign nation and kind of just walk along one of the main like thoroughfares or something like that, and it was always fantastic. I remember it was always great because I think they had one in either Argentina or Brazil, and they talked to a group of kids playing soccer, right? And most of the kids say, or I think the guy asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And the kids were like, all said, I want to be a soccer star. One of the last kids says like, oh, I want to be a soccer manager or something like that, right? And it's like his reasoning was that there's so many soccer stars, right? That like there's probably enough jobs for like a soccer manager or like a sports manager, and go like that kid has it figured out. That kid knows what to do. So Summer Street is great. There's a show called Lunch On where you get to look at various people's like lunches or bento boxes. That's always great to watch. Um, there's a show called Core Kyoto which deals with like all the with all the artistic aspects of Kyoto. Kyoto was the former capital in like Japan in the ancient days, and then it moved to Edo/Tokyo. So there's a lot of artistic stuff centering around Kyoto, and it's it's a great show to watch. There's numerous train shows. I can't remember both of them. I think both of them are fun from what I remember. And the craziest show I would recommend is something called Pythagoras Switch, which is a show that's just a show about a Rube Goldberg machine, where it's like, something that sets off various chain reactions. And they have like live action and animated segments in between the beginning and the end show. So it's very it's part of the reason why I bring that show up is because it has a nature similar to, if you ever seen this show before, or if you ever seen the VHS copy of it, it has an energy similar to something called Ship Shape Shapes, and it's probably the most insane like Western TV I've ever seen, because it's weird. They have like Muppet characters and live action segments as well, and it's probably the oddest thing I've seen on Western television or Western media. But yeah, Pythagoras Switch is almost in the same vein. Why I bring up the animated segments as well, because they're again, like I was saying, there's insane stuff like um I only remember this one, and it's called like it's a sentient tape measure thing, and they they're called Tape Measure Jackie, and the song's like tape measure Jackie, and it's absolutely insane, and I love it. It's just really goofy. So sorry, talked about that forever. Um, the main topic at hand is sumo wrestling. Sumo wrestling is something that I wasn't too interested before, and then I started watching NHK, and maybe they brainwashed me into watching it, but I always enjoy watching NHK because there's like it's kind of like I used to like a lot of Western wrestling, because of the pomp and circumstance surrounding some things and the storylines, and so when my brother and I watch it, we kind of almost have the same kind of like joking attitude. I put that picture of Haku up there because that's where some of the humor comes from. So we're gonna get to that right now. Hakuo mentioned right now because he's effectively, he's a goat of sumo wrestling effectively, and he is it was extremely crazy to me. I found that and I'm sorry, initially maybe xenophobic of me, but I found out that like so many sumo wrestlers are Mongolian, and yeah, the Mongolian guys, they can say that, oh, Mongolia finally conquered Japan because Mongolia captured the rest of the Asian world, and then was on their way to the western half, but then they were stopped at Rome. So, or not stopped, but the empire crumbled, all empires crumble, etc. But anyway, Mongolia was like capsized by the kamikaze, the divine wind, as it were, and then they had one more attempt, but then that failed as well. So in modern day sumo, Hakuo is Mongolian, and he can say that Mongolia finally conquered Japan. So I think it's a funny thing to say. But why I bring it up as well is Hakuo is one of the top ranked guys, Yokozuna, which if you watch, why I bring up American wrestling or Western wrestling is because Yokozuna was a guy in there, and same thing with Rikishi. And Rikishi in Japan is just a normal like catch-all name for wrestlers, and we're not catch-all, but I think you kind of get what I'm going at. And Yokozuna is the highest rank, followed by Ozeki, and I just wrote this down, and I'm like drawing a blank. Then Sekiwake, or Sekewake, and then Komusubi, and Maigashira, or I'm really messing that up, but I can't think of the way that correctly pronounce Maigashira, and it shows because I've heard Yokozuna enough. I've heard Ozeki plenty, but the third lower high rank guys, I can't exactly say. What I should have said before talking about Hakuo, and we'll get to him why he's funny, is sumo is a one match of the day and for 15 days. It's really quick. You'll have two guys, attack each other, and whoever falls first with something on other than their foot, or if they get pushed out of the ring, they lose for the day. So if you win 8 out of your 15 bouts, you get a Kachikoshi, or a winning record. Or if you lose 8 out of 15 days, you get a Makakoshi, or losing record. So, so if you lose, a couple days, that's fine, but you gotta get that eight wins regardless. So, uh, so that's not exactly why it's fascinating, but like I was saying, the part of the awe about Western wrestling is how they carry themselves, the pomp and circumstance, and so we get to that a lot, or we talk about that a lot with or I talk about it a lot with my brother, and it's really funny. We joke about there's a King of the Hill joke that I love to bring up, and that is a character in King of the Hill called Lucky, and he consistently refers to how he got his money by slipping on PP at the Costco. So we consistently say that whenever a Hakuho bails out of a tournament. Apparently, I learned a little bit before I started recording this, is that when you're a Yokozuna, you can't be demoted unless you're doing really poorly, or if if you start becoming like a ridiculous ass person. So, Hakuho will always. So I think it's to save face, or to save your prestige. Hakuho will usually bail out if he's losing, or if he gets his winning record, then he bails after that because he's like, I don't have to be here, I'm out. So it's funny. So we consistently refer to it every time because sometimes I swear he has like a fake injury, like soccer. Sometimes I'm just joking. But that he slipped on PP money, so, or that he slipped on that he slipped on something, so that he just bails for the tournament, and then usually some other up and comer will win the tournament. So Hako is usually one of the top guys, and he's Mongolian. And why I bring up the issue or not issue, but the fascinating aspect of how many sumo wrestlers are Mongolian is because and this was another guy that was top rank once, but now he's retired. It was a Japanese guy called Kiena Sato, and he was notable because he was the first Japanese Yokozuna in like years. And and I'm saying that's xenophobic because it's like Japanese people were like, oh yeah, we got one of our guys, whatever. And then the funniest thing is he got Yokozuna, and then he bailed for 3 tournaments straight, or the 15-day, and it'll be January, March, May, July, and that'll be every month or so. And that he bailed for 3 tournaments, and then the last tournament he got in, he lost 5 days straight, and then he just retired. And I just thought that was the funniest thing. I'm going like, there's your golden boy now. So, Kiyono Sadu so he's a coach now, but I just don't want to be too mean to him. But I just thought it was the funniest thing that like they put their slight faith in this guy, and then he just failed hardcore. So yeah, Kiyono Sato, Hako, Kakeru is another up and comer, or not up and comer. He's another Yokozuna, one of the top tier guys. Sometimes he'll bail, like I said, primarily Hakuho, because he's really and why I have the picture up is Hakuho almost sounds like a Street Fighter boss. He's better than E Honda. So yeah, he's the E Honda, or he's the, I think, is it Ganryu in Tekken or Virtua Fighter? I don't remember. But Haku will bail a lot of times because I think it's just that he's like, I have them. and yeah, he's why I say he's a GOAT as well is because he has the most wins or the most record wins. He has the most tournament wins at 44. He's won 44 tournaments, which is insane. I think the only other guy I saw that was when I was looking on the Wikipedia article a little bit before I recorded was that only like 21 people have won the or only one other person has like 21 or like a record or something like that. Um, so Haku has at least 44 tournament wins, and that's crazy. He has like almost over 1,000 wins, like over his whole career, and he's only like 30. He's only like 30 or 35 or something like that, which is insane. Usually, like when you're at that point in your career, you're usually a little bit older. But yeah, so whenever there's an upset against Haku, I usually like to cheer. I'm not, because again, he's the craziest guy, and when when there's an upset, there's a guy I usually like to root for, Mitake Umi. He scored an upset when I started watching, I think, the July 2017 tournament, and you just saw how nuts it was. People were throwing, they sit on cushions in the tournament arena. And other than that, I just wanted to say it's thank you very much for hosting me, Project. And gosh, what else was I gonna say? I kind of but yeah, sorry. Mitake Umi scored the upset against Haku, and you just saw the arena just go nuts. Alrighty, thank you very much, Project. I'll check out your stream later. People are throwing cushions in the ring, which will usually happen when there's an upset. But again, or if there's a really crazy bout. Like most bouts will usually just end when somebody gets. It will be like a 30 seconds or 2-minute fight, and when they get these fights where they're grappling and they're trying to toss each other like a judo throw or something like that, it gets nuts. It gets crazy. So whenever there's a upset about to the GOAT of Hakuho, it just it gets crazy. Unfortunately, or not unfortunately, when you get an upset against Yokozuna or something like that, you have to be the Maiga Shirira or the fifth most rank or whatever, and that you'll get something called a Kinboshi or Gold Star win, and that's a permanent pay increase for when so you'll be paid that higher rate all your career, so it's something to strive and shoot for. Other wrestlers of note that I like to bring up besides Hakuho and Kakuru and Mitake Umi and Kiana Sato, which, sorry, that's a lot of names to go through, is Taira no Fuji. If you watch this current tournament, which is the last one from May, has been postponed, and they had one I think for January and for March, because again, at that time, March was when the more coronavirus was cranking up and all that, but January was it was kind of iffy. So they canceled the May one. They had the July tournament this time. Taira no Fuji won this time, and I think he got 2 other prizes, which is if you're doing well, but unfortunately if you got the your 8 wins or 8 losses, you could still have a chance to win one of the prizes of doing well. There's technique and I guess I can only think of the word technique. So yeah, Taira no Fuji won this one. He got an award. Mitake Umi got an award for doing well. Another wrestler that most of the time I'm gonna just talk about wrestlers for right now. Kota Shoigu is memorable. He used to be an Ozeki, one of the top guys, and then he got demoted a lot. And what was notable about him is his salt throw. You show salt in the ring to purify it, kind of, and his salt throw was that he would like reel back and like toss tons of salt in the arena, so or the ring. So I always thought that was funny. Um, Another notable guy is Abi. He's a new up and coming guy. He's a former rookie, but what's notable about him is that he's kind of thin for a sumo wrestler, but he has long freakish arms that's his one of his advantage. So he's like Mr. Fantastic in there, so that he'll use his arm as his advantage, but he looks very funny because he'll keep on slapping like that. And other than that, that's his main thing. So Abi's funny to watch, and I consistently will be like, yeah, Abi, do well, and then he messes up hardcore. So that's like another notable guy is Inho. Inho is, and like sometimes like call him Inho. Inho is Inho is a short guy, and he's kind of relatively thin compared to the other sumo wrestlers, but it's fantastic to watch him work because Inho is kind of like similar to another guy called Ura, and they're both short, but they can move those guys. They can move the other like fat guys, and it's insane. You gotta watch them like toss them, and it's absolutely gratifying to see like the underdog or the smaller guy like get the win type thing. So another notable guy is he's another foreigner to Japan, but he's a guy from he's a Georgian wrestler, and sorry, not Georgia, United States, but there's also a Georgia in and near Russia, and they are I think state, and they are state different from Russia. They've been consistently fighting Russia for right now, and because Russia is just effectively been a modern asshole and trying to annex certain countries and trying to make them under their rule. But anyway, Georgia is a unique state, and Tochinoshin is a wrestler that he does okay. He is it's fantastic to watch him when he gets the grip around the belt that the sumo wrestlers are wearing, because then if the other guys are small enough, he'll physically pick them up off the ground and put them out of the ring. It's great to watch. It's like, I'm sorry, I'm kind of getting sweaty talking about sumo, because like sumo wrestling is like, it's okay. It's like most other sports that you watch is like you rather be playing the sport, right? Like with video games, it's like with, and thank you for watching this far. But it's like you rather be working the at this you rather be working at the sport, or rather be playing the sport. And sorry, I lost my train of thought, but I still want to say thank you for watching this far. So Tochinoshin, he's another foreign guy that's high up the scale. He was a former Ozeki, I don't think he's the first Georgian or Ozeki, but he's one of the prominent foreign guys besides the Mongolians wrestling in the sport as well. So it's always fascinating watching Tochinoshin working. Same thing with there's a guy called Gaga Amaro, which is really funny. His name sounds really funny. He was, I think, another Georgian. There's a guy that's called Aoyama, or he's another guy that I'm not here to like body shame or fat shame, but like he doesn't look great, and he should really, like, if he tones down or bulks down, I think he'd be a much more effective sumo wrestler. But he's a Bulgarian guy, and I was just like going like, Bulgarian and Georgian, that's like I never heard of Georgia, the nation, outside of in general, and I didn't think too much about Bulgaria, but then this guy is, a high rank guy, so it's just. But again, like, if you see a picture of Aoyama, you know what I'm talking about. But um, yeah, I think he should slim down a bit, and he'll be a better sumo wrestler. Another guy, Ishihara, he's relatively thin for a sumo wrestler. But what I was saying is that he was gonna be initially when he was a rookie, or he had a really, or he still has a promising career, but like I just wish that he was a little bit better. Um, and I think that's about it. I can talk. Well, never mind. There's one to two more things that I can talk about. Um, Matches are decided by the referee. So if there's like a dispute of like if two guys fell at the same time and then you have to rewatch the footage, the Gyoji, the referee will usually decide and point with a fan called a gunbai, which was like a samurai war fan back in the samurai era. He'll point to which side won or which side lost, or I mean, which side won. There's more referees to the sides that if it's a contentious bout, they'll be like, they'll hold like a little, I can't think of the word. I think they'll hold a discussion to see, whether or not who won, and that's kind of fascinating to watch. And if it's too contentious, they'll have a rematch, and that's great to watch. I was slightly disappointed by this tournament because they so Terunofuji kind of won, without too much of a problem. But what I was saying, it was disappointing because I think Mitakayumi lost, and if he had won, it would have produced a three-way playoff for the title. And a playoff is so crazy because it adds more stakes to the cup, it just gets more exciting, and and yeah, but the playoff did not happen, and that's fine. But I just it's kind of gets boring. Why I bring up Hakuho so much is that he usually wins most tournaments he participates in. So unless he slips on PP, there's usually no chance for other sumo wrestlers to get a tournament. But yeah, but when Hakuho is just when he's out of the tournament, that there's ample chance for anybody to win it. So it gets exciting when the kind of the GOAT leaves the tournament. So not negatively, but like it opens up the opportunity for other people to win. So I guess that's all I can say about sumo wrestling. It's funny to watch. I bring that up because I think the sumo tournament ended like a couple days ago. So if you're bored of watching baseball or basketball for that matter, because I know they came back recently, there's something else to watch. It's on the NHK website under their like on demand or video service, and I think the episodes will be taken down starting August 20th, at least for the first episode. So if you're interested in sumo wrestling, go check it out. It's fun every now and then. It's kind of getting back to its groove. Again, people should social distance, and they kind of do that in the crowds because they're sitting at least like I think 1 to 2 cushions apart. I think that's the what's it called? That's proper social distancing and all that. But I think it's consistently funny to, or not consistently funny, but consistently fun to watch sumo wrestling, especially when there's not a great like I can't think of a great word a dearth, or like there's not too many activities to do right now since coronavirus is a consistent threat, and you want to make sure that you're safe. So, watch. If you want to, just watch sumo wrestling, and maybe you'll get hooked or something like that. It's it will be, and it was on July or last month, and it will be for this September. So give it a chance if you want to. But I think that's a good way to end it. Thank you for watching. I'm your host, Reroll Zero, and